Once upon a time, there was a game called Tetris. It was conceived by communists. There was a legal battle over the rights, a legal battle that will be completely glossed over for the purposes of this video. So once Nintendo were given console rights to Tetris, Sega decided they wanted in on that action, and hence we got Columns. Well, okay, they actually made a Tetris beforehand, but they couldn't sell that one, so they bought the rights to Columns from some dude, and hence we got Columns. A game where gems fall from the sky and you have to clear the way by arranging them so that if you manage to match 3 like gems in a column, or a row, or a diagonal, they go away. Through masterful planning, or more like total flukes, you can manage chains of these matching gems so that more of them will go away. Be mindful though, because the better you perform, the faster the descent of your columns of 3 and eventually gets to a point where they drop down so quickly you barely have time to react. For a time, Columns was a fun game, so much so that it got a number of home conversions and a number of sequels. And then that was set aside in favor of that other puzzle game with beans that got compiled along the way. But anyway, back to Columns. Or rather, off the Columns for the Sega Master System, because why not? There are 3 modes of play. Original mode, your standard endless run where you play for a high score. Flash mode, where you attempt to clear away gems until you clear the flashing one. And versus mode, which is the traditional 2-player competitive mode. Now, Columns is one of those puzzle games where it really doesn't matter where you play it or on which format, because if you play one version of Columns, you've pretty much played them all. Any differences between the various conversions of Columns are generally superficial, and the core gameplay is generally the same across the board. On its own, Columns bears a concept that is straightforward and easy to grasp. I suppose you could compare it to something akin to Dr. Mario, which also involved matching rows and columns with like-colored units. Except you're basically stuck with columns of 3 gems and blocks or whatever. That's your only real restriction. You could shift around the order of the columns, the gems, the things, and whatevers, but you can't rotate them to their side. It should feel limiting, but it works, and it does add tension when the columns are falling at great speeds, your well is piling up, and you're desperately trying to get that one move in that'll save your hide from the clutches of oversaturation. The beef of contention that I have with this Master System version of Columns is not with the gameplay, because that's fine, but rather it's with the visuals, which are fairly weak and eye-straining. Original mode sports a black void with stars floating around and lots of empty space, not very exciting. Flash mode has this racetrack thing in the background, which is something I suppose. There is some nice background animation as you're playing the games, which is a particularly nice touch. And I suppose the ability to change the appearance of the gems is a nice little feature. They also included this on the various Game Gear versions. But why, in the blue hell, does the playfield have to be so microscopic that it's difficult to tell the gems apart at times? I'm being serious here. Why did they have to make the wall so small and the gems even smaller than what you get on the arcade or even the Genesis version, which had nice big gems that made use of all that space? It's like they designed the game for the Game Gear and decided to port that over to the Master System without any changes. Except the Game Gear version is a completely different thing with only passing similarities in design. Even that shitty Columns clone on the Famicom had nice big gems, which isn't really saying much because that particular version is also an eyesore. Anyways, I just thought I'd get that out of the way. There's only a couple tunes in this Master System version of Columns. You have the one tune during original mode, which is the main theme of Columns, the Klothos or something like that. And you also have another tune that plays in Flash mode, which is actually the main theme from Sega's own arcade version of Tetris. There's the title tune, and I'm assuming there's one for the Versus mode, which I've never tried admittedly. Unfortunately, there's no option to pick which tune you want to listen to, unless there's some hidden cheat that I'm unaware of. Sound effects are eerily sounding, with some ear-grating sound effects, but otherwise not too shabby. There is an otherworldly feel to some of these, it's fine. Overall, Columns on the Master System is alright. Not great, not bad, just alright. The gameplay is true to form, the visuals are less than stellar, and it would have been nice to have more tunes to play with, but as a version of Columns for Sega's aging 8-bit system, it gets the job done and it works well enough. All in all, not exactly the best version of Columns, but it's good enough. The end.